Welcome in to the Cover 5 podcast / show. I am your host. You can find me on Twitter at Jordan Vanek DFS. As always, I'm joined by my co-host at HiloFF over on the Twitter. Hilo, we got a 10-game slate this weekend. How do you feel knowing that we have less games to break down, but we also have that 3-game Saturday slate to warm us up for the weekend?
Yeah, no rest for the wicked on my end, man. So I broke down the entirety of the Saturday slate over a 1 week season. Just got done with my games for the Sunday slate, so I'm a little bit behind for Sunday action. CJ Stroud, Nico Collins both not practicing, so we were just talking about that. Yeah, dude. So this I like the smaller slates, and this one is very, very unique and interesting from the sense that like the entirety of the morning games or the early games are like real bad on paper.
It's all
There's
under
some
40-point totals.
Yeah, there's some spots for one-offs, mini correlations. Like there's some interest in the Green Bay and the Tampa Bay game just because both those offenses are expected to be concentrated. There's some other spots, but yeah, like the bulk of the heavy lifting is probably going to be done in the afternoon. With all three, well, there's 3 afternoon. Yeah, all three of the afternoon games are like have the potential to just like you could just build you could build DFS rosters for the main slate just from players from those 3 games, and I think like have a chance to still ship.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be a lot of lineups that are actually like that. And that's just the unique slate, unique opportunity. It's unique for that 1 p.m. only slate because obviously all the good players are left off of it. So you're going to see a lot of guys be it's going to be really interesting with projections and stuff. But let's get into it. Let's start with our first game. The San Francisco 49ers are traveling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Who do you like in this one, Hilo?
I mean, it starts and ends, not ends, but it starts with Christian McCaffrey. I mean, yeah, like we can look at his box scores and be like, yeah, this dude put up 51 points or 50 burger last time these two teams played, but like he is so he's so integral to this offense that most of what we're talking about when we talk about the 49ers runs through what Christian McCaffrey, what this run game can do. There's some very, very interesting components as far as like talking theoretics about how to build around that or to leverage off of that on the slate. But yeah, this game, I think, now that we've seen kind of some tendencies out of the Cardinals that they're not going to lay over and die, they're coming off their bye week. There's a lot of interesting potential upside cases to be made with this spot. So yeah, it starts with CMC. Obviously, Brock Purdy is capable of throwing for something like 303 plus in this spot, just leveraging the touchdown variance there. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk is in an elite spot in this matchup. A little bit less so for Deebo Samuel. Typically, what we see with Deebo is his usage and schemed usage really go way, way up when they're playing an opponent that is able and capable of generating pressure. That is not the Cardinals. So we're likely to see George Kittle in routes at a higher rate. We're likely to see more time for Brock Purdy to allow Brandon Ayuk, allow his routes to develop. So yeah, like the Brock Purdy double with Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle completely on the table here. And I know you have some interesting thoughts about the other side, so I'll kick it back to you for that, man.
Yeah, we have the Cardinals potentially getting back Michael Wilson, and that is the player that I would want to run back with a Brock Purdy stack. And the reasoning is because against quarters coverage, which the 49ers are now living in because they now believe that their pass rush is just going to get home. And right now they're also kind of beat up on the secondary side of the ball. Greg Dortch has a huge target per route run with Kyler Murray at quarterback against quarters. Teams like to play quarters against running quarterbacks because you have this umbrella where you're all focusing in on the backfield, which obviously Kyler Murray is a runner. You want to be paying attention to him when he escapes. Michael Wilson had a big game against them the first time around. The 49ers are pretty beat up on their back end. I think he can have another big game in this spot, and in the 3K price range, like it's perfect guy to get to, considering all the chalk going to like guys like DeMarcus Robinson, which is a really interesting one because he is officially a full-time player in this Rams offense. And I think even with Tutu, I think he's going to maintain that role because he was getting jump balls to end the game against Marlon Humphrey. Like Matt Stafford was trusting him in spots like that. So I think that the guy is going to play snaps this upcoming weekend, and it allows you to kind of get that uniqueness in this spot entirely. I don't really have any interest. Or Hollywood Brown is a fine play. Again, he's the same type of player he's always been. It's going to take a deep ball, and he's been getting them against with Kyler Murray. They just have not been able to connect. And his price at 5,100 is an easy run back. I think that's another way to get unique. Obviously, it's not the game that you'd expect to shoot out, but with the injuries San Fran's got on their injury report right now, if you see some of those star players not be in the lineup, like you just said, the Cardinals are not rolling over and dying. Kyler Murray is trying to prove, like, hey, I'm still this franchise guy. I think they could score some points and keep it fun. And again, Brock Purdy averaged 14 yards per attempt in their first matchup.
That's pretty good.
They couldn't run their quarter scheme. They weren't able to, because you put two safeties. I don't care if they're 10 yards off the ball. They're still two safeties deep. You have a light box against the 49ers. McCaffrey is going to absolutely gash you play after play. So definitely don't mind a mini of McCaffrey and Michael Wilson. Definitely don't mind the Brock Purdy doubles. I definitely lean Ayuk because, again, Cardinals are playing a lot of cover 3 because they're going to need to bring a player in the box. And Brandon Ayuk against cover 3 is probably the best receiver in the NFL. One of. And huge target share for this 49ers team. Any other things you like to add there?
Nope. That'll do, dude.
Don't need any James Conner, so don't be playing him at the running back position. Don't want to go that route. The game that I have a lot of interest in the 1 p.m.s is the Giants and the Saints. That's not a game that I expected to be invested in, but we know the Giants with Martindale, they're going to blitz. They're going to give you man coverage. They're going to give you single high. They're not going to give some of their corners help. Deontay Banks is that corner, and he's going to travel with Chris Olave. He did some traveling in that Packers game, and overall he's done it throughout the season against some of the great guys. He's a good corner. He is someone that I expect to be a longtime player for the Giants, but great players can beat great corners, and Chris Olave is that great player. Against single high coverage this year, he's getting targeted on 31% of his routes run. He has 2.84 yards per route run. And then on top of it, you have Derek Carr, who is going to get blitzed. When Derek Carr's been blitzed this season, 5 or more pass rushers, he averages 8.3 yards per attempt. If he gets blitzed and he sees single high, that number goes to 9.2. That's on about 80 dropbacks, so it's not a significant sample size. But when Derek Carr sees that he can throw the ball down the field, he's going to do so. Chris Olave is going to be the main beneficiary there. I don't mind A.T. Perry just because of the way he, the physique, the fact that he's 3,500, and if you're going to double Derek Carr, he's a fine player to go with it. On top of it, the Giants run defense, they give up a ton of rushing touchdowns. That's just because teams get to the goal line by these deep shot plays and corners get tackled there. And as a result, you're going to see a lot of goal line rushing touchdowns. Taysom Hill does not suit up. I believe he's still on the injury report. Could be wrong about that. Kamara in a double with Derek Carr and Olave is totally viable, totally fine. I also don't even really hate Jamal Williams with Derek Carr and Olave on the 1 p.m. early. If you're only going to play the 1 p.m. window, I don't mind that double just because, again, Jamal Williams saw some opportunities last weekend. This is a game where I don't expect the Giants to be super competitive, but if they do and the Saints end up scoring some points, you could see some Jamal Williams goal line touchdowns to kind of tie it all together. And then on the Giants side of things, with Tommy DeVito at quarterback, they're starting to look competent. They're starting to trust him to do more things. They're also getting super creative with their play calling. Brian Dable's just having fun back there, just getting some of these jet sweeps, some of these quick passing games, and letting their first and second round picks play like first and second round picks. For me, I really like Jalen Hyatt in this spot. Jalen Hyatt is a guy that I saw against the Patriots have, I believe, a 97-yard receiving game. DeVito is trusting him on these deep balls. The Saints play a ton of man coverage. Marshawn Lattimore is not there. Tyrann Mathieu has been playing some of the slot players in this in recent weeks. I think Jalen Hyatt can see some snaps in that area of the field. And if Tyrann Mathieu is guarding Jalen Hyatt in the slot, I think Brian Dable is just going to trust his quarterback to throw it deep to him. Again, we're looking for some of these 3K, get different options. I love Jalen Hyatt this weekend. Don't really think I'm going to get to Wandale just because he's way too popular and the matchup isn't as great for like a low A dot type person. I want the big play in this matchup. How are you feeling, Hilo? I know you hate Wan'Dale Robinson, so
Yes.
you don't like that.
Yes, I do. I'm not going anywhere near this unless it's the New Orleans defense, to be honest.
Okay.
I think, I mean, like two of the largest defensive fantasy games this season have come against the Giants. Yeah, they were both with
Yes.
Daniel Jones, but like who's Danny Tommy DeVito?
Oh,
I think
DeVito's better. Come on.
I know. Oh, come on. Come on. Where's there it is. Yeah, I don't know. I would much prefer to go to the New Orleans defense here. I think they're not going to gain a lot of steam just because they're priced up at 3.8 on the slate.
Yeah.
I could be wrong about that, but I think they're not going to see a lot of steam. Typically, people don't like paying up for defense, and I will gladly take that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Saints can have the big play. Chris Olave is my favorite player in this game. Again, I'm looking for these 1 p.m. windows. Who could, from the 1 p.m. slate, get into that 27, 30-point output? I think that's Chris Olave for me. Saquon Barkley, I'm not really getting to just because of the pricing. I don't hate him if you really want to mini it and get like super unique from the field. But other than that, I'm not getting into that game much. So let's kick it to the next one. You have that Dallas Buffalo game. I think this game is super interesting for DFS. How are you approaching this one?
I think the field is going to struggle to get to this one. There's a lot of places where it's very clear where the field is likely to go. And again, I haven't looked at ownership because I've been so into the Saturday slate, and I normally don't even look at ownership for Sunday until Saturday morning or Friday evening. So I don't know, but the feeling I get is that we're going to see the field prioritize Kyron Williams. We're going to see the field prioritize like Christian McCaffrey. We're going to see the field prioritize San Francisco passing options, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. I don't know if the field is going to get to the pieces from this game because they're so costly. And when you're talking about like, do I pay $9,200 for CeeDee Lamb or do I pay $9,300 for Christian McCaffrey? It's probably going to reside with McCaffrey from a generalized like what we expect from the field. So this game now becomes pretty interesting because I think the fact that the Buffalo Bills defense is now healthier and playing better, the fact that they're top 5 in points allowed per game, the fact that we've seen what Dallas can do on defense, I think those biases kind of creep in here, not realizing that like this game probably carries the highest chance of pure shootout on the slate. We have the desperation factor for Buffalo. They need to win out basically to have a chance at the postseason. Yeah, they could get some help, but there's 5 teams ahead of them in the standings in the AFC at 7-6, I think. So like, yeah, they need this is desperation time. So you talk about like desperation Josh Allen with the training wheels off that were kind of placed on him this season by Ken Dorsey. There's some upside there. So like that includes Gabe Davis, that includes Stephon Diggs, that includes Dalton Kincaid. Dawson Knox is probably going to be forgotten about on the slate. He has some upside because we've seen the red zone roll. We've seen, and I didn't look at their 12 personnel usage last season, but I seem to remember Dawson Knox was on the field a good bit. Have you looked at that data?
Yes, I was actually going to bring that up in just a little bit. I'll let
well,
you
there's your lead in, bro. There's your lead in.
Oh, so I mean, so for starters, I'm intrigued with this game because of they abandoned 11 personnel this past week. Like not completely abandoned it, but when Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid are both healthy on the season, when they're both active, their 11 personnel usage is 29th in the NFL at 47%.
What did they do last week?
Last week with Joe Brady, it was again same rate. It was 46% 11, 29% 12. They used a lot of 21 to get James Cook just the ball of the linebacker mismatch in their opinion, but it was again they went from like a 70% 11 personnel rate to a 46% in the first game that Dawson Knox back. And then you talk about like Josh Allen specifically. When he throws from 11 or 12, 74% completion rate, 7.8 yards per attempt, 6-2 TD to INT ratio with on 103 dropbacks. He's also running on those.
Yeah.
When he throws out of 11 this year, again, bigger sample size, 363 dropbacks, 12 interceptions, 15 touchdowns. he averaging 6.8 yards per attempt. So he's and a 64% completion rate. So
it's like a 33% increase from 12.
Yeah, his completion rate goes up significantly. His yards per attempt goes up by a full yard. And then his interception to TD ratio is much different. It's not like he's forcing passes. It's a lot easier for him to read. And on top of it, when you go 12, like Kincaid, Knox being the extra blocker for some of those and then leaking out, like it gives him more time to develop and see down the field. And then the simplistic throws of like Kincaid in the slot on a linebacker, Kincaid helping chip some of the defensive ends, like it's a huge benefit to them. And then you look at like the personnel when they throw out of 12, Diggs is averaging 2.9 yards per route run. He's got a 34% target share because you take away a receiver on the field. Diggs all of a sudden becomes the main guy that Josh Allen obviously goes to. Diggs only has like a 26% target share when it's out of 11. So for me in this game, like I think I'm going to get to a mini in it for sure. I don't know if I'm going to get to the quarterbacks just because of the way I see some of the cheaper guys. However, a Jake Ferguson, Stephon Diggs mini, like Tony Pollard, Stephon Diggs mini is, I think, going to get underplayed this weekend. And for me, like, I know the Bills defense have been much better. They've also just been benefits of who they've been playing. Like, I know Philly, like, they played Philly and they played them pretty well. Philly's obviously gone through like a 3 or 4 week stretch of just an absolute gauntlet. That game was horrible from a weather standpoint. Like, weather, it was raining the whole time. It just wasn't a great game. And again, Jalen Hurts still threw for 3 touchdowns, ran for 8.1 yards per attempt. He still had a really good game. They played Zach Wilson or Tim Boyle, 115 yards, or maybe it was Zach Wilson at the time. Don't recall. Denver, they lost in that game. Cincinnati, like the last team they played with the firepower and the consistency that Dallas has been playing with, Joe Burrow threw for 348 and 2 touchdowns. Like, obviously, they're healthier now, so it's maybe a little different, but Dallas has been just beating anybody and everybody. But now they're outdoors. Now it's in Buffalo. So I agree with you that the field's going to have these biases about Dallas. I don't love this game for CeeDee Lamb in particular. And the only reason that I have there is I truly believe Buffalo is just going to double him, or they're going to double him everywhere you go. Like, and from a scheme perspective, I think the safeties of Buffalo are better than some of the safeties that Dallas has been fortunate to play, and like reading what CeeDee Lamb's route tree is going to be and actually reacting to it. And as a result, again, you're going to get a lot of cover too high like shells. That's where Jake Ferguson's going to eat. Like, Jake Ferguson over the middle of the field against these linebackers is the mismatch for Dallas, in my opinion. And I know you absolutely love Jake Ferguson and his red zone target trait and how he's just going to have this multiple touchdown game eventually. And I think that multiple touchdown game comes today or this weekend against against the Buffalo Bills. And a mini of Jake Ferguson and Stephon Diggs is just not what the field's going to play this weekend. So
I like that shout. I also like Brandon Cooks. I think, I mean, at his price, with the questionable tag because of the illness, I mean, he's only 5,200. If he is basically manned up the entire day because the Bills are either playing cover 3 or they're doubling Stephon or CeeDee Lamb, there can be some upside in there as well. So yeah, there's just a lot of interesting ways that you can go in this game and build differently than the field. Everything from like a Josh Allen double with a 1 or 2 player from Dallas bring back. Like, you could play, like, theoretically you could like run a Josh Allen double with like James Cook and Stephon Diggs, and bring it back with like Jake Ferguson and Brandon Cooks. Nobody's doing that this week. Just like completely diving into this game environment in ways that the field is not, and just saying like, hey, these 2 teams in desperation mode because Dallas is fighting for the number 1 seed in the NFC, and the Bills are fighting for their playoff lives. Like, we could see like an 80-point game that is within the range of outcomes in the spot. Like, it's not the likeliest scenario. The likeliest scenario is probably tightly around its median, so it's game total. But there is some significant upside in the spot.
Oh, I don't like James Cook this week, just to make that clear. The Cowboys, like, they've converted a strong safety to outside linebacker. So I think that, like, that's not a matchup that James Cook is technically in a plus matchup. I think it's Christopher Bell. He's been phenomenal this year. I think if I'm playing the quarterbacks, I'm definitely full game stacking. I'm not getting cute. I think you could go with like a Josh Allen, Diggs, Davis, Jake Ferguson,
Mhm.
Brandon Cooks. Like Allen, or you
I
could
was
just go
literally
Allen and
building that right
Diggs.
now.
Like you could go Allen and Diggs, just those two, and just those two do it. And then you go with Brandon Cooks and Jake Ferguson as well. Like I don't think you need to get again, I don't CD Lamb. I think if I play Dak, I have to play CD. I feel like his
Yeah.
upside is carried through him. But
Yeah.
I also don't hate a Dak, Brandon Cooks, Jake Ferguson from a theoretical, like the salary relief of not getting to CD Lamb and what it gives you from the rest of the slate. But again, Dak Prescott at 8K, it's what he should be, but I just don't
Yeah.
know if I'm going to do that in Buffalo this
Pay
weekend.
the
But
200 extra for Josh Allen and the rushing upside.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. And also, they're doing a lot more quarterback design runs from 12
Mhm.
personnel. That's going to be even better.
Yeah. Yeah. We
like
like
it's
that. We like that.
like Dawson Knox is an awesome player that like I feel like him and Josh have they have a connection that's like I'm going to run this guy over for you. And Josh Allen just thrives in that type of stuff. So again, I definitely agree. I think this game kind of not plays similarly to, but like the shootout potential of like what Miami and Buffalo did last year. Like
Yeah.
the game environment, just wow, every big play. Like again, it's one of those types feels. I don't hate Pollard in this one if I want a running back from it, but other than that, there's not much more to add to it. So let's move forward to the next game. Tampa Bay taking on the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau. It's a pretty cool moment for Baker Mayfield, who recreated the Brett Favre scene for when he got drafted. So he's playing in Lambeau Field. That's probably big for him. I played Desmond Ritter against the Buccaneers last week, so yeah, I've got interest in Jordan Love this upcoming week. The
Oh
only
my
problem with
God.
this one is it's just not as concentrated. Like with the Falcons, I knew it was Drake London, and I
Yeah.
mentioned to you I was going to play him in 100% of lineups. I played him in like 70, and it was really easy to me to be like, all right, well, Drake London is getting the ball. The Packers, man, they have so many people on the injury report, which if Watson and Wicks get ruled out, makes it so much easier. But if they both play, then I think it gets uh, not tougher, but like it's like how healthy are they? We've seen Watson multiple times with his hammy, like it could pop at
Yeah.
any moment. And then even on the season, like nobody has a 20% target share against the blitz. If Watson or and if Watson plays, he's been the best against like the primary coverages of the Packers. You're going to see a lot of cover three and a lot of blitzing, and their blitzing isn't going to get home. So you're going to kind of get what we saw in that Detroit game where Jordan Love's going to have time in the pocket and time to throw. And if you haven't watched Jordan Love in the last few weeks, like Jordan Love's put on a show. He's been playing really well. He's been missing a few things, but again, it's his first full year starting and being the guy. Not really
Yeah.
surprised that he's missing some of these throws. The only player that I actually don't like in this matchup is Romeo Doubs. And it's just because he hasn't been winning against single high coverages. He's been their guy for too high. Obviously, he's gotten some red zone usage, so that boosts him. But if for a ceiling game from Jordan Love, I want Christian Watson, I want Jordan Reed, or Jaden Reed, and I want Dontavian Wicks. The only thing with Jaden Reed that frustrates me is the rushing usage that we see from this guy. And then on the flip, it's only two players. It's Mike Evans and Rachaad White. I
Yeah.
don't even want to go Godwin here. I don't think it's necessary. I think Mike Evans and Rachaad White are the two guys. And if I play Jordan Love, I want both of them in my lineup because I want the game environment to exceed expectations and go shoot out like the Raiders Chargers, dude. Go go
Never
score
saw that coming.
63, dude. That's what we
Golly.
want the Packers to do this weekend, right? Since you're a
Oh,
fan.
I would love that. Yeah, that sounds great. Um, Reading the situation, I would highly expect Christian Watson to miss this week.
Yep.
Coming
I
off
do too.
his re-injury, the hamstring injury. The most interesting aspect of the Packers is Dontavian Wicks. The dude is like legitimately a target earner in this offense, but he has an ankle injury, and it's been relatively close to the chest. What kind of ankle injury it is, but
Yep.
the recent reports were that it's a high ankle sprain. So if that's the case, he was a DNP. They only had a walkthrough on Wednesday. He was limited on Thursday, which typically you're not going to see from a high ankle injury. So I don't know what's going on as a Packers fan, but Wicks is very interesting. But if Wicks misses, Malik Heath is a
Yep.
name to keep on your radar. Talented rookie. He slid because he didn't really play anywhere in college. But that's kind of like what the Packers do.
Hey, I've
Go ahead.
taken down some college football slates with Malik Heath. You be nice. Malik Heath
No,
from
no,
Mississippi
I
State.
like this. I'm saying the Packers are good at identifying underrepresented, we'll say, wide receivers coming out. I mean, obviously, that's what they've made what they've tried to do.
I mean,
like
Malik Heath is the best Ole Miss receiver from this draft.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right. I'll take it. I
hate Mingo.
I'll take it.
I just don't like. Well, I mean, first off, the touchdown he had against the Giants this past week against Deontay Banks was sick. That was. I mean, he's again. I don't really think that he's actually like a full-time player going forward. But for this weekend in DFS, if you're doubling Jordan Love, I don't hate Malik Heath at all. If Wicks and Watson are out, because then he is their third receiver.
He is the perimeter. He is the deep guy, because Romeo Dobbs' role is not going to change regardless of who's playing alongside him on the perimeter. If both Watson and Dontavian Wicks are out, like Malik Heath steps into that like upside role in this offense, which is what we need if you're playing Jordan Love, 100%. So yeah, Malik Heath, he's only 3K. Keep an eye on that. Obviously, a very clearly pass funnel matchup against the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers have been struggling recently, or slipping, we'll say, against the run. But Vita Vea has been on the injury report. Both of their linebackers have been on the injury report. And finally, for the first time in a long time, both linebackers are expected to play, and Vita Vea is expected to play. So, this should be considered back to like a primary pass funnel matchup. We also have AJ Dillon, who busted up his thumb. Probably not going to play if the reports are accurate that he broke his thumb, and it's on his dominant hand. Is that correct? I think
if it's on whatever hand it's on, he's not rushing that way.
Right?
He's not going to hold in the opposite hand. No, if he plays, exactly. It's like you're going to know he's running left or he's blocking. And if you're blocking with a broken thumb, I don't know how effective you're going to be.
Good luck. And then like Aaron Jones has missed the previous 3 games, and he's trying to come back from injury. There's also, I don't know. I don't think I have any interest in a guy like Patrick Taylor, but Patrick Taylor is a guy that in desperation mode, he's probably going to be the 2-minute offense back. I don't think they want Aaron Jones, even if he plays, which is not a certainty right now, in that role. A very interesting guy to keep on your radar, at least at 4.3, that allows you to get like CMC plus another top.
The Josh Allen double.
Yeah, exactly. He could walk himself into 6-7 targets in the spot and become viable if he scores. So I don't know. It's interesting guy to keep on your radar. But like, yeah, I'm with you with Romeo Dobbs. I think that Jaden Reed is a very, very interesting play. You poo-poo on the rushing stuff and the fact that like, I mean,
I hate it from him. I hate it from his talent perspective.
DFS,
obviously that's bonus. That's good. You're getting your player the ball.
Yeah.
But man, just let the dude run routes.
Well, it's come and gone is my rebuttal to that. And I think his ADOT was like 2 point something last week against the Giants because they were relentlessly blitzing, and he was the outlet piece, similar to what we see with Deebo Samuel in San Francisco. Yeah. Against a Buccaneers team who blitzes a lot, but they don't hit home, that could be very different. So, and especially if the Buccaneers are blitzing, leaving a guy like Jaden Reed in man coverage, that could spell trouble, a la like what Deebo Samuel has done to the Seattle Seahawks for forever. So yeah, that's a very high upside spot. I like Jaden Reed. I like Malik Heath if Dontavian Wicks is out. I'm operating under the assumption that Watson is out. So if Wicks is out as well, Malik Heath is very interesting. And I also think that Patrick Taylor is very interesting because I expect AJ Dillon to be out, and Aaron Jones, they're not going to throw him directly into even a 60% snap rate. So there is some upside with Patrick Taylor this week.
What about Tucker Kraft at 3K?
I'm not going there.
Popular.
Yeah, I'm not going there. I mean, he's probably popular because he played 100% of the offensive snaps last week.
No, yeah, he's playing every snap. I was just curious. I mean, obvious. So basically, if you're playing a Jordan Love double, you'd have interest there because of the double side of thing, or
No,
no?
still not. No.
You don't think he's going to get
I
rid of
mean,
some targets?
no.
Okay.
His touchdown or yeah, his touchdown that he scored, what was it, 3 weeks ago, was a like a from the 2 or the 1, and they snuck him out type, like, we're gonna use this as
No,
an
yeah,
extension of
no,
the run
I
type.
know what his role is. I
Yeah.
was just curious in like a double from him, but that's fine.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I would just play, like, Malik and Jaden, something like that.
got you. Well, anywho, let's go to the final game of our breakdowns. It's the game that is got the highest over under. It's a game that's going to be played at a very, very, very high rate. The Washington Commanders are playing the Rams. The Rams are hot. Matt Stafford is thrown 3 or more touchdowns in 3 straight games. Matt Stafford is not priced high. He is 6K. He is
Yeah.
200 more than Derek Carr. He is 200 less than Jordan Love on DraftKings this weekend. I fully expect Matt Stafford to see 28 to 30%, just because of the state of the slate, the position that he's in, who he's
Yeah.
playing, and how he's played. The pricing of Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua aren't really that high for
Yeah,
what they can
palatable.
do. 7,300, 7,800 from both of them. And then you have a 3K to Marcus Robinson. You have a cheap tight end in Davis Allen, who is outperforming the Jalen Ramsey player in the trade of Hunter Long. I can't believe that they traded a third or
Hunter
traded
Long
Jalen
is done
Ramsey
for
for
the
a
season.
huh?
Hunter Long is done for the season.
He got hurt again.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he's on our.
He played last week, and then Davis Allen was performing before he got hurt, but that sucks.
Mhm.
Sorry, buddy. But Davis Allen at 3,300 again. It's tight end. It's an easy one. I don't think there's much to really like dive into in this game because it's pretty simple on the Ram side of the ball. Matt Stafford, Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, all of them could do it. I think that if I'm playing Matt Stafford, I want Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams, Matt Stafford is better when Kyron Williams is on the field. Matt Stafford will throw to Kyron Williams. Kyron
Yeah.
Williams gets this Todd Gurley-esque usage that we used to see with McVay in this offense. And during that era, Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, Cooper Kupp also performed throughout their weeks. So I don't really hate the going a double stack of Matt Stafford with Kyron in it. I think that they can blow out this Commanders team who's had a bye week. They fired some guys. Doesn't really matter. They don't have the talent to be able to cover these two players. My preference is Puka Nacua over Cooper Kupp, and the reason for that is just because of formationally what the Commanders have struggled against is what Puka Nacua has outperformed Cooper Kupp in from a yards per route run and targets per route run. It's again, it could be either or. I don't hate Cooper Kupp this week. It's just more of a what's my preference between the two. It's a coin flip. I lean Puka Nacua. And then on the Washington side of things, it's for me, it's McLaurin, Dotson, Logan Thomas, and with Brian Robinson out, I don't hate Antonio Gibson. I don't love it. I don't think it's something I'm going to like slam home, but it's something that I'm obviously going to eye just based on if I do attack this game environment, I'm going all the way. Like I'm not going to sit here and try to play Matt Stafford with a double and just one run back. I want two because I want the shootout. And then on top of it, like the Rams secondary is beatable. The Rams corners on the boundary are very beatable. They have performed this season. They have done some great things down the field. I've seen a lot of deep opportunities that quarterbacks have underthrown, quarterbacks have misplaced, receivers have dropped that I think the Commanders pass catchers can take advantage of if they can protect Sam Howell for long enough. Dotson would be my main guy in that area just because of the price he is at and the fact that I think he's disappointed the field enough to where people are just going to stare at Curtis Samuel and be like, well, he's caught a lot more passes. I want
Yeah.
Curtis Samuel over him. I don't think there's any. I think McLaurin's going to be the highest played. Logan Thomas will be second. And then I think these two receivers will basically be even and it's not going to be significant. But that's all I've pretty much got to say on that one. Do you have any, or how are you attacking this one? How are you playing the Matt Stafford versus Sam Howell mega matchup?
I think my interest is primarily with the Rams, and I don't think you need to force a bring back. We talked like ad nauseum this season about the fact that like, yeah, Washington is valuable because they have extreme pass rates, they play fast, but they're most valuable for what they do to game environments, not necessarily for any of their players because the concentration is not there on a weekly basis. Along the same lines, the Rams defense is this ultra prevent style zone heavy type defense where it's very hard to get those explosive plays against for a guy like Terry McLaurin or Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson isn't really an explosive play guy. He's a body type control wide receiver. But yeah, the per target per touch upside takes a dent in this matchup for Washington Commanders players, and they already are not in a concentrated offense. So my thinking is like you can just buy into this game environment through the Rams. And the Rams have scored 31 points or more in 3 consecutive weeks. So they are like in full desperation, making a play at the playoffs, making their final push. And like I had been preaching it for like the first 6, 7, 8 weeks of the season. Like eventually Matthew Stafford is going to see that touchdown regression like happen. And we're finally there. Matthew Stafford has been playing at an elite level, somewhat quiet or extremely quietly. Like no one is talking about Stafford, but what he is doing, managing this offense and moving the chains, like he has been playing at an elite level. He has been minimizing the mistakes. Yeah, he's going to throw interceptions. That's Matthew Stafford. But as far as like reading defenses and bringing that veteran presence, Stafford is playing like at an elite level right now. So it's good to finally see like, he had 1 game of multiple touchdown passes through his first 8 games. It's like, there's no way this is sustainable. Like, and now he's thrown 10 over the last 3. So yeah, it's finally here. Matthew Stafford plus Kyron Williams plus Cooper Kupp is my preferred way to dive fully into that offense. It just feels like Cooper Kupp, not that like he's turning a corner, but just that the offense is becoming more, how do I say this? The offense has been forcing or changing to the sense that Cooper Kupp is now becoming a point of emphasis again. Whereas like when he just came off of injury and then he got re-injured and he missed those games, the offense was not like, Sean McVay was not dialing up an offense to get Cooper Kupp in space, which was like what he did last season. Now I saw components of that last week against a very difficult secondary in the Baltimore Ravens. And we don't know if that's going to continue or not, but like, I want to be there because we know Cooper Kupp has 50-point upside if that is the case. Yes, like Puka Nacua has performed better in the underlying metrics against what we expect out of the spot from Washington. In the same sense, like Cooper Kupp, we know that he can win against man. We know that he can win in against single high. We know that he can win against the blitz. Like if he has schemed the touches, that's where I want to be. And I think that we might see that this week. So that's kind of how I'm seeing the spot. Like, don't overthink it. I think I love pairing Kyron Williams or including him in that stack. Because you're just basically accounting for all the touchdowns. Like you have a chance, like the Rams could score 5, 6 touchdowns in this spot. And there's a legitimate path to all 5 or 6 of those touchdowns going through those 3 players. So I want to be there for that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously again, we're both not saying don't play Matt Stafford with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. That's obviously very viable and not something that I'm sitting here saying is just not going to happen. It's not going to work. But again, we both prefer the running back receiver Matt Stafford stack. I do not want to play DeMarcus Robinson. I don't think that's the matchup I want to go to. I think it's a spot where there's a lot of other 3K wide receivers that I deem are better than him. And he can get his 40, 50 receiving yards. That's fine. Like as long as he doesn't score, like it doesn't really affect you. You want him to get yards for Matt Stafford to hit the 300-yard bonus. And help pay off the 6K price tag and perform a GPP score. So he can perform in Matt Stafford, not be needed in the winning lineup, especially with some of these other guys. But that brings me to Hilo. Who is your favorite value on the slate?
Real quick, I forgot to mention, dude, on the Rams, Tyler Higbee returned to a full practice with that neck injury on Thursday. So yeah, he's going to play. So that kind of puts a dent on the Davis Allen thing. But
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that means you'll see. I mean, yeah, Tyler Higbee is another guy that like you could play Puka, Tyler Higbee, and Matt Stafford. Hope that Matt Stafford throws for all the touchdowns and Kyron just hits like 100 yards because
yeah,
that's what he's probably going to do.
yep. My favorite value on the slate is Noah Brown, and I think a lot of people are probably not going to get there just because it's David. It's Davis Mills season. Here we go again. But Davis Mills with Bobby Slowick is probably a lot different than, oh God, I don't even remember who was calling plays for them last year.
David Cooley.
Yeah, who the hell? I don't even remember. Anyway, Bobby Slowick is a different animal altogether. We digress. Yeah, so if we already know that Tank Dell is out, I assume based on what happened earlier this season that Nico Collins is also going to be out. I mean, he had a calf strain that he didn't practice all week, and then he missed the following game and came back the following game already once this season. Same thing is happening again this time. So I'd assume that Nico Collins is going to miss. And on the other side, Dalton Schultz is going to return, I think, this week. So it's basically like Noah Brown, Dalton Schultz, and then like Mechie, Hutchinson, and a bunch of guys that are probably going to play situational roles for this team. So Noah Brown, I mean, he had that back-to-back like 27 plus point fantasy outings in the middle of the season. Yeah, that was with CJ Stroud. But if he is the focal point of this offense at only 5K, I'm all over that.
I have interest in Xavier Hutchinson. I can't play Noah Brown with Davis Mills. I just can't. I can't do it. I think that the Texans are going to kind of have the offense. They're going to be better, but when you don't have good players, you can't perform on offense. It's just how things work. And I don't care how good your scheme is. Kyle Shanahan would not be able to put up a ton of points if he doesn't have one like his players. Like it's just not going to be the case. Like Brock Purdy would obviously struggle if McCaffrey and Debo and Ayuk and Kittle were Noah Brown, Xavier Hutchinson, Damian Pierce, and company. But
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But regardless, I don't hate it, but I will not be going there. My favorite value on the slate is actually a deep ball. I'm going to chase it. I'm going to chase the deep play against the New Orleans Saints with Jalen Hyatt. I watched the Panthers game last weekend. Bryce Young missed 3 touchdowns. Few of them he was pressured. That's hurt me. But other ones, it was just like, dude, you got to run this a little bit hard. You got to run the route a little bit better, whatever the case may be. I think the over the middle, down the field looks will be there because I think the Saints will give them a safety on Hyatt, enough plays for Hyatt to have that big game. I think that Hyatt, for me, at the price range and what I think he's going to get played at, will be a great value. And then my favorite player for ceiling this weekend is Stephon Diggs. He's playing his brother's team. Obviously, that's just a little added motivation to go do it against your brother's team. But on top of it, the Dallas Cowboys are going to play man, and they're going to live in man coverage. They don't care that you have good receivers. They believe that their corners can man up against your good receivers, and some of the good receivers have been shut down by these corners. Stephon Gilmore was all over A.J. Brown. Obviously, Devonta Smith had a few drops, I believe, last weekend, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, you're going to get man coverage, and you're going to have to beat the man in front of you, and that might be Deron Bland. That might be Stephon Gilmore. The Bills are going to motion him around to get the matchup they want, but regardless, it's going to be a corner, one of those two on him. I believe Diggs can win in that scenario. I think that Diggs hasn't had a big game. He hasn't had a 100-yard game since October. We are now in December. This is the game where we got them going back to 12 personnel. We've seen back-to-back games of Diggs getting 11 targets. I think this is the blow-up game for Stephon Diggs, and I want to get to it, especially with the way that the slate is playing and the fact that, again, we just talked about the Cowboys Bills game probably not getting played as much as it should, and that's because of the pricing in this Washington Rams or Commanders Rams game that is happening this weekend. Hilo, who is your slate breaker ceiling type play?
So I told you one earlier, and I'm going to change it, actually. It was Cooper Kupp. We already talked about that. And I want to change it for a very specific reason. And it goes into like the definition of slate breaker. And I think this player can absolutely wreck the slate because of where he's priced. And that's Amari Cooper. I was all over Amari Cooper last week as one of the top leverage plays on the slate. I played him with Evan Ingram in that game after a hobbled Trevor Lawrence was going to play, because hobbled Trevor Lawrence without Christian, whatever. We don't have to get into that. That was one of the most elite like leverage spots on the entire season. And now after Cooper Kupp saw 14 target, or not Cooper Kupp, Jesus, Amari Cooper saw 14 targets last week, I get this feeling that the field is going to glom onto David Njoku because he scored twice. But we look at like, I have been relentlessly attacking this Cleveland Browns pass offense with Flacco because they're just letting the dude air it out. And now that he picked up a contract and now that he has all those incentives, the dude gets $2 million additional on his contract if he wins the Super Bowl this year. Talk about like, this dude is going to be, I think it's like $250 for making the playoffs. It's like $500 for going to the conference championship.
Launching it.
Yeah, this dude is going to be straight heaving, dude. And I want to be there for that. And Amari Cooper is, I mean, he saw 5 targets to 1 of Elijah Moore prior to departing 2 weeks ago. He returned, saw 14 targets with Flacco. So this is a guy that like has the upside to lead the slate in targets, and he's priced at $6K. It's a very uncomfortable range for wide receiver pricing. Typically players want to go up or they want to go down from that range. So I think he's going to go largely overlooked in this spot. It's not like a great Gucci matchup on paper. The Bears defense has been playing a lot better, but he has the upside to like legitimately go for 15 targets, 150 and 2 type at only $6K this week.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a matchup for the Cleveland Browns that down the field looks are going to be there. Flacco is just launching it. The only issue I had was just because of the injuries that they've sustained. Jedrick Wills went out. Like, they've had a lot of injuries to the whole team is beat up on that spot right now. But Amari Cooper at 6K, again, we want volume. That's all we're asking for our players. And if you're telling me that Amari Cooper is in a spot where they they could be trailing in this game, it wouldn't surprise me to see the Bears take a lead with the fact that their offense is like just run heavy. Fields is an athlete with all the injuries they have to the defensive side of the ball in Cleveland. So if Amari Cooper gets 14 targets at 6K, that's a player I agree with that I would want to buy into. It's actually a player that did make my pool. Actually, I just checked to see if he was in there, and he is. And at the 6K range, it's really gross. It's D-Hop, Rashee Rice, Amari Cooper, Garrett Wilson. Ew. People are going to play Garrett Wilson and Terry McLaurin because they saw D-Hop perform against the Dolphins. So now that Zach Wilson looked good and threw the ball to Garrett Wilson, we're going to play him against the Dolphins. I hate that. I don't think that that's going to hold true. The Titans O-line just blocked the Dolphins really well. The Dolphins will make adjustments, and they're going to rely on that defense to carry them in this one, which I think they do. Hilo, do you have anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up this thing up?
No, man. That sounds good to me.
Play Rams. Don't be afraid of that chalk. That's one that I will eat at this point in the season with all the things that we know about the Washington Commanders. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to check out my main slate article that will be live on the site on Saturday. Our top plays collaboration between me, Hilo, Josh Larkey, Ryan Reynolds, that will be on the site on Saturday as well. And Hilo's approach to a lot of the chalk this upcoming weekend. Hilo definitely has some intriguing takes. I can't believe I did not play the Evan Ingram mini with Amari Cooper. I think if me and you would have combined Desmond Ridder being great with Evan Ingram, we would have probably taken down everything.
Yeah, I did okay in the 555 milli last week. No sweat this time, but profit.
I got 1,200 on that slate, actually. I played Brock Purdy on it, though, because I forgot why I was. Oh, I wanted the Brock Purdy double because I love that stack as well.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy double got there, and I played Drake London, who was my pathway for Desmond Ridder anyways. But other than that, appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast, and good luck this weekend. Where is the thing?